Well, my name is Colin Thor West. I'm an associate professor in the Department of Anthropology here at UNC. Well, my ongoing research is interested in exploring landscape dynamics in northern Burkina Faso. So northern Burkina Faso is a part of the Sahel of West Africa that's been synonymous with land degradation and particularly desertification. And so it's maybe around the mid-2000s or so that people started to take satellite imagery and look across the Sahel of West Africa, and they found these isolated clusters of increased greening where they would expect to see desertification. And so scholars have wondered about these patterns, and we feel like we had the unique opportunity to explain some of these patterns and the mechanisms behind them in northern Burkina Faso by actually talking to people about their environment. So what we're doing is we're using high resolution satellite imagery, and we're doing these participatory mapping projects with communities across northern Burkina to try to have them explain these processes of both greening and browning from the bottom up, whereas most other people have just looked at them from the top down using satellite imagery. Well, when we first wrote this proposal to the National Science Foundation, like many things in the social sciences or anthropology, we don't have kind of this linear hypothesis testing procedure that you might have for other social sciences or the natural sciences. But I would say that at this point, the hypotheses that we did have are proving to be correct. We've had students working on this project for a year now, and we're working across 3 different areas of greening, browning, and mixed areas of northern Burkina. And so what we found so far is that we thought that it would be local land use practices, especially investments in soil and water conservation, that explain these patterns. And at this point, across this gradient of greening and browning, we are finding that indeed it looks like we are correct, that these 3 different areas have different local land use practices. And to tell you the truth, that's kind of surprising to us. But we're going back this summer to further validate that by doing these participatory mapping projects. Well, so far, most of what we've seen is based on just an analysis of GIS data and satellite imagery data. So we need to actually talk to people to see whether or not these ideas or these notions or these variables that we're looking at are valid. So that's what we're doing this summer. We'll be working in 3 different areas of Burkina Faso, an area called Kaya, an area called Ula, and also an area called Kongusi. And we do these participatory mapping projects or workshops. So we print these satellite images onto relatively large sheets of cloth that are about 3 feet by 3 feet. And then we gather people together in groups of 10. We usually have older men, younger men, and women, and we do these workshops separately with them. And so we bring them in, we have them look at these satellite images, and at first it's kind of uncomfortable because, you know, a lot of people in Burkina Faso, they've never seen their village and their landscape from a bird's eye point of view. They haven't flown in planes, they haven't looked at Google Earth. So it takes a little while for people to orient themselves to these images. But once we do, we have them do this rich and elaborate discussion of the changes that they're seeing in their environment. So we have them place these buttons. So these are buttons like you have on a shirt to identify areas of greening and also areas of browning. And they collectively place these buttons. And once they've placed them, then we ask them, well, what's going on in this area that you see as greening? Or what's going on in this area that you say that's browning? And then once they get involved in those discussions, we get these rich descriptions of things that are going on. And we found that just as it's fun for us to get this kind of empirical data from them, that it's also fun for them because they want to talk about their landscape. And after we do these exercises, we then take the placement of those buttons and we take a digital photograph of them, and then we use that their specific placement to actually classify these satellite images. So other people have done things that are similar, but so far as I know, very few have kind of integrated the ethnography, the discussions with people, with the actual analysis of the images themselves. And we find that that's really powerful and exciting because you get these two different perspectives that in some ways mesh very closely with each other. Well, right now we're just doing this in 3 different parts of northern Burkina Faso. And so what we would like to do is that these areas are relatively similar. So it's similar ethnic groups, it's similar types of farming systems, and it's also similar climate. So what we would like to do is we would like to take this kind of method that we have of integrating ethnography with remote sensing and take it to other parts of Burkina Faso that we know are very different. And so of course to do that you need more money. So we're hoping that with our preliminary results of this project, that we'll be able to justify doing a larger project with the National Science Foundation. And we know that some of these areas of Burkina Faso are heavily affected by climate change. So we think that there might be differences there, or these are areas that are highly affected by migration, that are attracting a lot of migrants into these areas, and so those dynamics are different. And we think that by working in this area over larger parts of the country over a longer period of time, that hopefully these findings that we have can get integrated into policy as well, so that policymakers can start instituting laws or mechanisms by which people can protect their environment, not only in northern Burkina Faso, but other parts of the country, to prevent it from being degraded and prevent desertification.